Let's have a look at voting models that we can use for decision making. Voting models are great for tackling uncertainty. However, we have to decide on 4 main things in order to use them in practice. So the first thing we have to decide about is what is the majority rule. So in other words, the threshold to vote in favor of certain option. So usually we are accustomed to having the simple majority 51%, but to be honest, it can be any number. And in some systems, you have a 66%, 75, 100. Another thing you have to take into account is how many votes each person eligible to vote has. Again, you can have one or more, and the research point out the fact that if you have more votes per one person, usually you get better results in terms of decision making. The third thing that you should take into account is to decide whether all votes are treated equally. Or maybe some people have preferred votes, so they weigh more in terms of decision making for certain area. And the final thing is whether anybody has a veto right. By veto right, we mean that his decision for no overrules all other decisions. So if he decides no matter what is the results of the voting, you will not do the thing that was being discussed. Now let's have a look at some examples and see how those 4 elements play. So we will look at 5 examples of voting system. So consensus, simple majority with 1 vote per person, supermajority with 1 vote per person, supermajority with many votes per person, and supermajority with preferred votes. In the first case, consensus, we'll have a look at the 4 elements we have talked about. So majority rule, threshold, number of votes per person, are all voters treated equally, and who has the veto right. So in the consensus, the threshold is 100%. So everybody has to agree to do something. Usually you would have 1 vote per person. Obviously they are treated equally. However, everybody has a veto right. So if somebody decides not to do it, you don't do it. With the simple majority, so the most often used system, the threshold to decide in favor of something is 51%. Then everybody gets 1 vote. All votes are treated equally and nobody has a veto right. Supermajority suggests that the majority threshold is higher. And here we put it to the level of 66, obviously it can be 75 as well. And with the supermajority, we keep the threshold, but what changes is the number of votes per person. So we have put here, for example, that everybody has the number of votes equal to 33% of all options. So if you have 6 options, it would mean that everybody gets 2 votes. So he can vote for 2 things. All voters are treated equally and nobody has the veto right. And finally, supermajority with preferred votes. We have supermajority defined to be 66%. In terms of number of votes per person, so this criteria we decided that there will be 1 vote per person in most of the subjects. However, the area expert will get 3 votes in his or her area of expertise. Obviously, this means that not all voters are treated equally. And here we decided that nobody has the veto right. So these are just 4 examples of voting systems that you can use. Obviously, given what you can put in those 4 elements, you can actually have much more of them. It really depends on what you want to achieve. Now, in next lectures, we will see how the voting results will differ depending on the system we used. For that, we're going to go back to the maintenance company and we're going to try to see how decision making can be done there using voting systems.